Welcome friends to another r/EntitledParents video. If you're worried that you might be entitled, just know that anybody who hits those like and subscribe buttons down below are definitely not entitled. That said, our first story of the day is by Craggle Tom. When I was only 12, Evil Mamabear tried to throw me under the bus to make herself look good. Here's another one I found in my old journals from the stuff my dad told me after he divorced my mother. This happened before a lot of people around town knew what kind of person Evil Mamabear really was. She was an extreme poser and pathological liar whenever my dad wasn't near her. This story I don't have firsthand as I wasn't there, but my dad told me about it years later. It was at a business party in 2002 that was set up by some local bigwig. It had several business owners in the area attending. My dad only went because Evil Mamabear absolutely insisted on going. She wanted to rub elbows and obnob with the wealthy and try to make herself look important. If she could have gotten away with posing as a millionaire, she probably would have tried. In situations like that, Evil Mamabear would act like a complete opposite of her normal self. She pretended to be caring and started saying how involved she was in various things, especially as a parent regarding my sister. But the topic of me got brought up by someone who was acquainted with my dad there, and that's when the lies really got deep. My dad left Evil Mamabear alone for a little while to go scour the buffet and came back to find her talking about how I was a lazy layabout who she and my dad did everything for. Rather than just confronting her, my dad let her dig herself in deeper. She went on to say how good of a worker my sister was, that she got great grades in school, and that I was never any help, and how I'm always stealing stuff for no good reason. My dad finally took his moment to step in. And the second Evil Mamabear realized he was there listening for who knows how long, she instantly clammed up. My dad's acquaintance started asking him about his kids, and my dad told him the complete opposite of what Evil Mamabear said. Dad told them about how I worked my butt off, not only doing most of the chores at home, but also mowing lawns around the neighborhood, and described how well I did in school, and even remarked how he saved and documented all of my schoolwork in his files. And he just wished my sister had the same motivation as me, but she mostly plays video games and refuses to do most chores. And Evil Mamabear doesn't make her do them either. Anyone who had been listening to my mother before started giving her the side eye. Dad said she looked completely red in the face and just spent the rest of the evening quietly moping at a table and drinking the complimentary wine. On the ride home, Evil Mamabear waited till they were well on the road and then tried to tear into my dad over embarrassing her and contradicting everything she said. But he pulled over and went off on her twice as hard. He said it was a verbal punch in the face to her with how badly she recoiled. He said that she blatantly lied and tried to throw me under the bus for no reason at all. And if she ever tried to do that again, he'd set the record straight, tell people a lot more about her and what she was really like. She tried to argue that as his wife, he's supposed to have her back, and he said that's not the case if she's lying, especially when she's lying about me, and he wouldn't have it anymore and can easily prove her false claims about me anytime if need be. That apparently made her sink back into her seat with her arms crossed and looking like she wanted to cry. It worked though. Dad said she never tried to tell people I was a lazy good-for-nothing back then anymore, at least that we know of. She was far more worried my dad would ruin any possible reputation she could have. And Evil Mamabear was all about appearances, but she was only able to keep her mask on for so long before it slipped off, and everyone knew what she was like. Though in the past year, as some of my previous posts have told, she went back to lying through her teeth about me whenever possible, especially in the incident where I refused to give her my house. But now that everyone's called her out, and even my sister who was once Evil Mamabear's mini-me no longer wants anything to do with her, she's got no one left to lie to or manipulate. And I bet it's just eating her up inside every day. If anybody didn't know, OP has like a whole catalog of stories of Evil Mamabear just being a total awful entitled parent. At social gatherings, if somebody's like in a crowd and very clearly lying about something you know is a lie, would you have any issue calling them out on it in front of the crowd of people? Or would you rather try to pick your shots? Or would you rather just not cause any drama at all? Let me know what you would do in that kind of a situation in the comments down below. This next story is by Ichiroku, entitled Mom Wants Her Daughter Back. LOL. Basically, one day, my girlfriend and I were on our way to tell my mother-in-law, God, I hate calling her that way, I'm just gonna call her Jabba because she looks like that thing from Star Wars, that we were dating for about 2 years. At the time, we were thinking that she already knew it since everyone else had already found out. We suck at hiding it. Boy, oh boy, how naive we were. She was always very protective of her daughters, especially the younger one. My girlfriend was only allowed to go to my house because we know each other since we were kids and all. We entered the house like we normally did, had some coffee and small talk, then the moment of truth finally came. And when I told her that we were dating, all heck broke loose. That filthy Jabba started swearing at her all kinds of possible insults. It doesn't make much sense in English, but most of them have something to do with her being promiscuous, that she didn't raise a kid to be a lesbian, that she loves her other daughter way more than her, etc. At this time, I was already upset as freak. But then we basically told her politely to freak off and that we were 2 adults and that she didn't have anything to do with it. We're both 22 at the time. We thought that ended it. Wrong. A few weeks later, she came to our house. My girlfriend moved in after all that BS, uninvited of course, and starts knocking on our door. My girlfriend answered her, and I still don't have a freaking clue why she let Jabba in. That beast in woman form simply started shouting her BS again, that I was taking her daughter, leading her to heck, blah blah blah. I was already losing my cool when she approached me and grabbed me by my necklace while screaming at me. Look, I'm a tall girl, 185 centimeters. If you have any IQ higher than the ambient temperature, you would think twice before snapping someone's necklace. I got it when I was 11, long story. At that moment, I push her through the door and ask her to leave immediately. If you don't leave now, I'll be calling the police over your fat butt and they'll be rolling you all the way to jail. With a lot more curse words, obviously. Jabba says, "You freaking hit me? Do you have any idea how you'll be screwed when I bring you to court?" I was already on edge, about to hit that witch on the face when the hero of the story suddenly appeared. The random delivery guy who was delivering some food nearby and saw everything. If you're reading this, you're amazing, bro. He literally grabbed Jabba by her arms and gently told her, "Witch, shut the freak up. First, this isn't even your house. Second, it doesn't have anything to do with both of us." The look on both of our faces were shocked. I wasn't expecting help, and Jabba wasn't expecting that. We spent about 30 more minutes of swearing and cursing until the cops show up. Now we're married, happy, and have a restraining order against her. I just pity her other daughter that lives with that crazy woman. Thankfully, at least with the other daughter, I imagine the entitled mom isn't so entitled with them because they live up to the standards that they oh so desperately want. Having grown up in a family with cousins who were lesbian, gay, or bi as far back as like the 1990s, I was pretty exposed to this kind of thing from an early age, which thankfully was pretty accepted by our family. Usually you would hope that those who have reservations about accepting people who are gay flip their script when they find out that somebody they care about or love is gay or bi. Basically what I'm saying is that I hope most parents accept their kids and aren't like this entitled mom. Our next story is by Green Dutchman. Entitled mother yells at 7-year-old for not practicing ethical economics. This happened years ago, but I still remember it vividly. I grew up in a medium-sized village with 2 small elementary schools. In my class in 1st grade was a nice kid whom I quickly befriended. He wasn't my best friend or anything, but we both loved elephants and castles, so it was meant to be. His entitled mother was quite the figure in our village. For some unknown reason, and without being asked by anyone, she had decided that she would get involved in literally everything that went on in town. She was on the school board, on the executive board for both the association football and tennis club, head of festive committee, you name it. I'm surprised she never ran for council, honestly. Anyway, I was not entitled mother's favorite person. I was a pretty dreamy kid, and she clearly preferred her son to hang out with his other friends, who were all more typical boys. I didn't fit in with nice kids' other friends, but I still appreciated our friendship, and besides, I was a child, so I didn't really concern myself with why entitled mother was so distant towards me. I just thought that was what she was like. When I was 7, my school, and by extension entitled mother, organized a charity book fair, of which all the profits would go to this building project in Uganda. of which I can't remember the specifics. A few girls and I had our own stand, and in addition to that, my mother had given me 10 euros to spend on whatever I would like at the book fair. While walking around, I saw that Nice Kid and his friends were selling a collection of Donald Duck magazines for exactly 10 euros. And boy, did I love Donald Duck. My 7-year-old brain hatched a plan. I could buy the collection of magazines, take one that I really liked, and then put the rest of the magazines up for sale for 8 euros on our stand. So the people in Uganda could have almost twice the amount of money for basically the same product. I thought it was genius. So I took the collection, took one magazine out, and added it to the pile of books me and my friends were selling, asking 8 euros for it. 20 minutes later or so, I sold the magazine collection to a nice father, and I was feeling happy about my smart ploy. Until suddenly I feel someone's long nails digging into my arm and yanking me aside. It was entitled Mother, and she went ballistic. She absolutely freaked out over what I did, yelling at me in front of Nice Kid, whom she had dragged along, and everyone else in that hallway, mostly kids. Don't get me wrong, nowadays I know selling and then reselling items isn't exactly according to the code, but the problem was that 1, this was a small-scale school book fair held by 1st to 3rd graders, not the Wall Street Stock Exchange. 2, it was for charity, so who cares? 3, they got more money from it than I did, and oh yeah, 4, I was 7. How was I supposed to know you weren't supposed to do that? And it's not like she gently corrected me or something. She went insane. It was wild. Didn't your hippie parents raise you better than this? Is this what you're planning to do? Living a life of dishonesty? And when other parents rushed to intervene, said, "Am I the only capable parent in this entire freaking village?" She even said to Nice Kid, "See, this is what I mean. Kids like him will only lead you to a life of scheming and betrayal." Obviously, I was crying at this point because I thought I was going to get arrested and that I'd made my friend sad, and she also hurt my arm. A few parents and teachers told her to quit yelling at a literal kid over something so fascinatingly unimportant, while another mother went to get my mom. As usual, entitled mother did not appreciate being talked back to, so she told Nice Kid to go back to his stand and announced she was going to go see the principal to discuss her dissatisfaction with the behavior of the kids and parents at this fair. She then stormed off, and my teacher followed her. After my mom had calmed me down and I'd almost forgotten about the whole ordeal because I'd gotten some candy from her, we noticed entitled mother slowly approaching our stand with the principal and my teacher in tow. She crouched down to my height, and I braced myself for another earful while my mom grabbed me tightly. But then the entitled mother put on the fakest sad voice ever, and without any emotion in her eyes, she mumbled some half-hearted apology that boiled down to, "I'm sorry for yelling at you. It's not my place to raise you because you're not my kid." She never even looked at my mom. She then stood up and asked the principal, "There, all good now?" To which the principal sighed, said whatever, and she took Nice Kid home. She barely ever spoke to me or my parents again after that, though I was still allowed to hang out with Nice Kid, luckily. Because of rapid population growth, my village quickly grew from around 2,000 to around 8,000 inhabitants, and entitled mother went from being the unofficial, unwanted president of the village to an effective nobody. So when I was in middle school, she and her family moved to an even smaller village nearby. I bet it didn't take long before those poor people learned what kind of person she was. I mean, it definitely takes a certain kind of absolute jerk to just get so livid at a 7-year-old kid. To be honest, and I don't mean to be too rude, but I feel like you have to be pretty stupid to not be able to understand that they're kids and they don't have understandings of somewhat complex economic rules like that. Frankly, I think they just enjoy being a stuck-up witch. And our final story of the day is by Stayed Titan 48. Angry mom tries to get me fired because I was too young to work there. At the job I used to work at, they let you work at 14. It was an ice cream and burger fast food restaurant. So after 8th grade, I got my work permit and applied, got hired, and started working. For the first 3 weeks, it was really fun. Went with coworkers to see movies and just had fun for a retail job. But after my 3rd month there, I was on the 2nd register serving ice cream, and I was serving entitled mother and her son. After I'm done making their cone, the son comes and asks how old I was. At the time, I looked like a 12-year-old girl. I told Entitled Kid that I was 14 with a work permit, and he was fascinated by how young I was working. But his mom was pissed about it, and she didn't buy it. She told me, "You're too young to work. You shouldn't be here till you're 16. Where's your manager? You're getting fired, young lady." After the whole restaurant heard her yelling, my boss came and said, "Ma'am, OP working here is perfectly fine. He has his work permit and he's on the strict child labor laws." After all that, the entitled mother and her kid left, and me and my coworkers and boss laughed about it and got back to work. I mean, to be fair, I think it's great that they were concerned. I think their attitude and the way they handled things needs some vast improvement. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel, and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.